Welcome, everybody. My name is Stephen Kohler. On behalf of everybody here at Audira Labs, I am thrilled to welcome this week's awesome, amazing guest, Liam Davis, who I am proud to call a mentor, a musical collaborator, longtime friend, and also happens to be a Grammy-nominated producer, performer, composer, entrepreneur, teacher, parent, and many things. Liam, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much for having me.
There's so much I'd love to explore, but why don't we start with just a quick question for our viewers of telling everybody a little bit about your journey today, given the many hats that you've worn over the years.
I grew up here in the Chicago area. My dad was an art teacher and a painter, and my mom was a career coach and a poet. So it was a very arts-leaning household that my brother and I grew up in. So when I figured out, I think at age 3 or something, that I wanted to be a Beatle, I got no pushback from my family of origin. In fact, my brother, who did not end up going into the arts, actually felt a great deal of pressure to be an artist, and felt like he was maybe letting my parents down when he chose to be a social worker. So I always knew that I would be trying to make music a vocation, and I was lucky to get a stellar education both in music and just generally speaking. But I held day jobs to pay the bills while I sort of built my musical career, and one of those jobs was managing a bakery, which I did for about 6 or 7 years. I think I figured out I baked something like 700,000 loaves of bread.
Wow.
After that, I put together a graphic design business, freelance basis sort of thing. And meanwhile, I was playing music, I was writing music, I was recording music. And then I began to notice the people around me who were musicians who were not getting the things done that they wanted to get done. And so I began producing records for friends, mostly, that then turned into clients. And one of those friends was a guy named Justin Roberts, and
Amazing musician, yeah.
and he sent some demos of some songs he'd written for his days at a Montessori preschool. And I thought they were fantastic. And I said, you should come to Chicago. We should record he was in Minneapolis, and we should record these and put a record out. And it was really just kind of this stuff should be in the world sort of impetus, motivation. And so we did that. And then through word of mouth, a groundswell sort of began, and we sort of invented a new kind of family music. And so the bulk of my touring, going back the past maybe 18 years, is with that project, that operation. I've been producer and band leader for Justin for a long, long time. And I guess I've been full-time now for about 20 years, working in various aspects of the music space, as you would call it, or sphere. And so I wear a lot of hats. I do mixing, and I do mastering, and I do production, and then I also have a solo career and different bands that I'm in, and that's about it.
Kudos on all those fronts. And for those of you maybe watching or listening that are not familiar, Liam is far too humble to mention this, but I believe you have multiple Grammy nominations, yeah?
Yes, I have lost 4 Grammys.
It's their loss, my friend.
Yeah, well, maybe one of these days. We'll see.
You've had a fascinating journey as you've kind of highlighted. What, from a leadership perspective, of course, Audira loves to explore that world. What are a few of the leadership lessons that you've gained along the way that you might share with those of us watching and listening?
So interestingly enough, I learned a lot about leadership in the food service retail arena. And I was fresh out of college, more or less. This was a kind of one of those day jobs for young people that had very much of a kind of group of camp counselors sort of vibe. It was a good job. It was good, honest work, and I never didn't want to go in. I never there was never a morning in those 7 years where I woke up and thought, I don't really want to go to work this morning. But early on, we were having it was a crew of maybe 6 or 7 of us all around a kneading table, kneading these loaves of bread, and we were having trouble meeting production schedule. Mm. And so the owner of the bakery, and I mean, I think it was like 2.5 weeks in or something like that. And it was a brand new business. He had just bought the franchise from HQ in Montana. And he took me into his office and he said, Liam, I'm going to make you production manager. So I want you to be in charge of keeping us on time. And I thought at the time, oh, this is going to suck. All these people, these friends that I just made who are my peers are going to hate me. They're going to, like it's going to change the whole vibe. And so I thought, okay, well, I can't really say no to this guy. So I remember walking back out and making some big joke about how we were all going to have to stress out a lot harder in order to meet these goals and stuff. And I tried to make light of the whole situation. And what happened next was kind of remarkable. It was simply just changing the context and everyone understanding that there was a leader in the room, and the next day we were on time. Everybody was on time, and I didn't do anything except just sort of offer the context. I said, Tom's gonna make me production manager, which means and so I learned 2 things from that. One is it's just often just the mere presence of the leader and an acknowledgement that just sort of provides context for the endeavor, and then the machine can run itself. And the second was that, and this is a lesson, that we learn over and over and over again as leaders, but that my ego has no place in, the proceedings. And if there's someone who has a problem with me personally because I have a leadership title in a given area, then that's none of my business.
I love that you raised that. For those of you watching and listening, Liam has graciously done tremendous amount of production work on my music. And I may borrow what you just said. You often repeat back to me that your ego as producer plays no part in what we're creating together. And I've always believed that's such powerful wisdom.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really, I think, is the main obstacle. I mean, in a great many sort of management gone wrong scenarios across so many industries, is that we hold on to whatever it is that's ego driven. It just has no place. It doesn't do anything but get in the way.
Well said. Now, as those watching and listening may know, we at Audira love to talk about the topic of listening for all sorts of reasons involving the importance from a leadership perspective. Liam, as a producer, performer, composer extraordinaire, arguably you are an expert listener. What tips might you offer those listening on how to become a better listener from your perspective?
That's a great question. The challenge is to understand where the value is. And the value is always in the environment around you, whether it's a sonic environment or a spatial environment, or a visual environment, or an emotional environment. And to understand what is there in that environment, you have to really pay attention. And the more you pay attention, the more the more input you will get from the environment, and the more you will understand how to bring value back to it. So that's, um, the biggest thing is for me, is I would say, is just to like understand what your role in a certain situation is, and then you'll understand how crucial listening is, because you have to get the stimuli from the environment that you're in, from whatever milieu you're concerning yourself with.
I love that. Yeah, I'm going to pick up two things you just mentioned for my next question. You talked about ego, you talked about the art of listening. And the next question is about how to make these pesky humans who don't always want to get along work better together. And I would imagine with many of the hats, including producer, you have to find some interesting ways to get folks that may not want to work together effectively or may have a challenge doing that to do so. What lessons have you learned, whether it's from the music world or other things, to help kind of folks collaborate better?
Thank you. Another great question. There is a, we're probably going to touch on this again later, because it's a huge part of being a music producer, but it's basically discovery and identification.
Hmm.
So if I am working with musicians, maybe they aren't resistant to working together, but maybe they've never worked together before. Maybe there's some resistance to collaboration itself. Maybe there's some egos in the room. That happens in rock bands.
Never.
Right. So for me, the important thing is really understanding where everyone is at, and understanding, and through listening and observation, and from discovery, asking questions, inquiry, I really try to find out what the needs are. And once I have identified those needs, then I know how to make the individual feel safe and valued. And when anyone feels safe and valued, then you will get the best work from them. And then that, of course, also engenders trust. And when the musicians trust the producer or the leader who's, helping them get this project actualized, then they will surrender to the thing that got them into music in the first place, which is, music is a mystery that we all know is there, but we don't know how to solve. And so we just keep exploring it with one another and for one another. And when I get the individuals to feel valued, then we can engage. Then they buy in to the thing that's already there, which is, let's discover this together. Let's honor this process together. Let's just see where this takes us. And I think focusing on that, on like, let's just engage in the magic that this is, rather than sort of figuring out, this is a sum of the parts issue towards a goal that's in the future. Let's discover, right?
Let's discover this mystery together, right? Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things you and I have talked about that shows up as I reflect on what you just said is, a lot of us have self-talk or narratives around the topic of whether or not we feel we're creative. So a lot of us, I know you've encountered a lot of this. I know I've encountered this, where somebody may say, Liam, that's great, but I'm just not creative. I'm just not musical, right? Having worked with a lot of folks that may have some of that narrative, what's your reflection on that? What guidance might
It
you
doesn't
offer?
it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Aptitude doesn't matter in terms of creating, where art and creativity are concerned. It doesn't matter how good you are at it, or whether it comes to you easily or not easily. It's really about how transformative and healing it can be to engage in something, to express an idea, or to tell a story. It's a crucial part of the human endeavor. And I think the idea that there's this kind of quality threshold, that an individual either meets or doesn't, is again just another obstacle to us all engaging in the artistic process. There's a there's a puppet theater company based in Vermont called Bread and Puppet, and one of the tenets of their ethos is that art belongs in the kitchen. I've always loved that because
Mm.
it's not about some. I mean, you can kind of see it. I have one of my dad's paintings on the
Oh,
far wall there.
oh yeah.
um, but art is not about uh, it doesn't belong in museums, right? It belongs in the kitchen. We all have access to it, and it can be tremendously, like I said, healing and transformative. And the way into it is just to simply have the courage to shed yourself of these ideas that um, that it has to be good, or that you are. I mean, I'm sure that the part of the conversations that you are having on a regular basis talk about mindset. Um, but if the individual is feeling diminished because they don't feel that they can be creative, or they're not musical, or they're not artistic, um, you know, none of those things matter. And B, when you engage in it, you immediately are.
Well said.
Like the minute you get your hands dirty with a piece of pottery, or the minute you pick up a brush, or the minute you know, play a squeaky note on a trumpet, you're creative, you're doing it,
Mm. I love
and it's
that.
going to help you.
Oh, so wise. Now, you used the word healing a moment ago, and I want to pick up on that thread. Arguably, we as a planet have experienced and are continuing to experience one of the most difficult passage that many of us know in our lifetime in terms of the pandemic. And we're all very familiar with the emotional, psychological, physical impact that that's had. Um, what role do you think music and the arts has played and can continue to play in your mind and from that healing process?
Well, I don't think anybody can argue that that music and art haven't played a huge part already in helping us do whatever it is we've needed to do. I mean, I think in the beginning uh, of this odyssey, there was a sense of people feeling a need to be placated, uh, comforted, and then I think as the situation sort of changed shape, I think catharsis probably came to the fore, maybe a little more. And now I feel like there's the our day to day is more variegated, more complex, and more nuanced. Um, but people are still relying on recorded music, for instance, and uh, you know um, they're binge watching
Mm.
Netflix, or whatever it happens to be. I mean, I know my kids really um, throughout the pandemic have sought out creative outlets. So I feel like all of those things have been a sort of collective salve for us all. But I feel like going forward, the thing that we are gonna need to once we have some distance from this, we're gonna need to process our feels pretty pretty hard, and we're gonna need to tell this story. And the zeitgeist is already emerging, I think, of this, and I feel like there are going to be more and more uh, pieces of art that offer some kind of storytelling about what we've all gone through, or what we go through as an individual, uh, or whatever that is. So I think it's going to be just as important in the coming future as it has been so far. Um,
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Now, one of the things we talk about at Audira, of course, is that, leadership has nothing to do with titles or hierarchy, and we're all leaders in our own way. And part of that is finding ways we can give back and make an impact. So, related to your last point about the world of musicians and the arts community, what are some things you think those of us watching and listening, Liam, can do to give back to musicians and give back to performers, given everything they've been through?
I would say that if music has helped you, if you have engaged in listening to music, or watching YouTube videos, or whatever it is, wherever you get your music, I would encourage you to engage with those musicians. Find them on Twitter, or find wherever you can access them, especially if they're independent musicians or middle tier musicians. I don't know that you're going to be able to reach Adele, but um, there are a lot of us who really want to engage with our listeners, and we don't always know that you're listening to us.
Mm.
And I think that kind of relationship can bring a real two-way value, uh, and enrich the experience for everyone involved.
Thank you for highlighting, for those of us who may not be remembering, that that is a two-way relationship. It is those of us, of course, consuming and listening to the art, and the artist recognizing that and interacting with the audience. It's such a powerful lesson.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's a lesson that really came down hard when live music was taken away. For me, as a live music performer, I had no idea how much I was going to miss uh, the audience, the audience part of the performance of music. It's it's equal parts.
Oh, I love that. Um, who is a leader? I put that in quotes, in whatever way you may choose. Who's a leader that you admire, and why?
Well, I'm going to go with Dolly Parton on this one. I mean, there's several leaders that I admire. Uh, I feel like she has been so consistently positive. Um, she has been consistently generous. She's been, uh, I mean, both in just being prolific as an artist, but also, generous with her spirit and her message, especially now that she has a social media platform. I mean, I think we can all uh, look to her involvement in the vaccines. Um, and I also feel like she has been a real um, positive example of the power of femininity.
Mm.
And I think that that has been, I mean, I hope that that has been a good model um, for women and girls who who have gone through, I mean, who have to live under the oppression of the rest of us. And I feel like that she has been, there just aren't, there aren't a lot of, there's not a lot of representation of that kind of feminine power in our culture. And I think that's one of the reasons that she is now basically, I mean, she's almost achieved sainthood. Um,
Son.
so yeah, that's my,
Mm.
I might have a different answer if you ask me tomorrow, but
Great
today it's
example.
Dolly.
Great example. Last couple questions.
Sure.
Other than Dolly Parton, who are you listening to, or who are a few folks you're listening to these days?
My kids.
Mm.
Um,
Well said.
uh, my girls are 12 and 14. And so they're really at that point of life where they're really engaging in music, and they're really starting to get it. So I'm listening to a lot of Lizzo lately. They're really into Lizzo, and she's awesome. And then I've been revisiting the Beatles with my younger daughter, and so that's been really something to just sort of listen again, in the context of her ears and just processing that. And another artist I've been really getting into is a woman named Michaela Davis, who is a harpist and really doing some fantastic sort of indie pop, rock stuff with a band that she has put together, and I highly recommend checking some of that out.
I love that. Let me just comment on the fact that I love that your immediate answer was your kids. That really hit me there. And then you also spoke to a theme that you and I've talked about in other contexts of what I would say listening with fresh ears through the eyes or ears of somebody else. And my gosh, what a powerful lesson for all of us.
Yeah, and talk about a leadership lesson,
Mm.
like having tween or teens and understanding the humility that is that requires. And I mean, one of the things that I that's really been sitting with me recently, because I have a 14-year-old, is that she just needs me to humor her. She needs me to step aside again, remove my ego from the equation, and just, be an audience for her process, be an audience for her journey. And she's, her brain is working in a different way than it was 3 months ago, and it's a thing to behold.
Oh, hallelujah. For those watching and listening, how might they find out or listen to the world of Liam Davis?
Oh, sure. Well, the best place is liamdavis.com. They can go there, and there's some, if anybody's interested, they can get on my email list, and they'll get some free MP3s as a result of that. There's going to be a lot more stuff coming down the
Woo-hoo.
pipeline in the next few months, but yeah, that's the best place to go. I'm on Twitter as Liam Davis, and everywhere else as Liam Davis Music. All the other platforms. I'm not on TikTok or Twitch yet. My kids are helping me with that.
Sweet. Yeah, I think we all need help on that front.
I'm serious. I need a Gen Z mentor. So if any of you are listening, that's something that I think all of us Gen Xers could use a Gen Z mentor.
So true. So true.
Right.
Liam, thank you so much for your time. Some really powerful lessons. Really appreciate all of your insights, your time. And again, thank you. And we look forward to hearing you soon.
Oh, Stephen, I mean, what a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me. Truly.
Cheers.
such a bitter